No, the underlying premise in that question is you have tremendous influence to swing elections. It's faulty because if I had that level of influence in this election, or if I had that level of influence in the 2016 election or the 2020 election, this would be Bernie Sanders' second term. All right, let's get to Oxford Union. And this was obviously months ago, 5 months ago specifically. I mean, this was before my Oxford Union conversation took place, before Trump became president. It was, when was it? When did this actually take place? I don't know. It was December 5th. Okay, so it's a post-election, right after the election, but before Trump became president officially. So it was December last year. You wore all that just to put on Dr. Martens? Yeah, I love those shoes. What are you talking about? Anyway, so this is a conversation that took place in December 2024, and it is, damn, you were skinny. I'm literally the same weight now as I am there. All right, let's... Dr. Martens. I mean, I just read whatever that chat was saying. Okay.
We're priming young men who are already in the throes of radicalization due to the hopelessness that they feel, who are already very vulnerable into being really open-minded. Dare I say too open-minded to reactionary opinions.
I poured water for you.
Okay, that was a thunderous applause in comparison to Cambridge, I'll tell you what.
First of all, thank you so much for those remarks. On that note, you've demonstrated a remarkable ability to mobilize your online community. For example, you raised over $1 million, fundraised over $1 million for Palestine, over 200,000 for Ukraine. You yourself donated to the UCLA encampment. And young people have been at the forefront of pro-Palestinian activism and other causes as well. And you've done that uniquely through Twitch and streaming, especially breaking down dire political topics, election updates, and international affairs. So on a broader note, how do you think bridging, the world of Twitch and streaming with politics has had an impact on young people, especially on the discourse between left and right-wing discourse?
So I think that my little community online is almost like an island in a sea of sharks for the most part. I think that Twitch has this profound ability to get people to be invested in certain causes, and I would feel I'd feel insufficient if I spoke on all of the horrifying things that happen all around the world and not take some sort of action against it, because sometimes simply communicating these issues is not enough. So I've been able to effectively use my audience in that regard, and I worked with a bunch of other content creators as well in another endeavor called Creators for Palestine, where we also raised another, I think it was like $2 million for numerous Palestinian charities on the ground. And it's been, I've been tremendously privileged, and I try to use that privilege for good every single day. But would I say that the entire online space, especially the entire political arena online, is similar? No, definitely not. I think it's like heavily dominated by a lot of right-wing commentary, and I just try to do my best to fight back against disinformation and try to convince people to see the world in a different way.
So on that note, you referenced that under President Joe Biden, there's actually been an increase of male-centered, and I quote, Gamergate culture war narratives at the forefront of political commentary. So can you expand on what that phenomenon means and its implications on political discourse?
Yeah, so I talked about this with Pod Save America leading up to the election as well, where I noticed that, I think one day I saw a tweet that this guy named Sean Ryan, who's like a former CIA guy or something, I don't know, he's like one of those like defense guys. He's virtually interviewed every single person that Donald Trump has picked for his cabinet. It's just, to give you a better understanding of what kind of content he makes. He had actually overthrown Joe Rogan as the #1 podcast. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I saw the list of podcasts and I was like, oh my God, every single podcast on here is insanely right-wing. All the top podcasts were dominated by like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan. Like Joe Rogan was woke in comparison to the rest of this list. And it blew my mind. I was like, holy shit. Like I just, I can't believe it. And then I looked a little bit deeper.
Hasan Diddy Osama Piker, they are going to catch you in your lie, terrorist defender. Asman is the #1 political streamer. Man, the day Hasan Diddy Osama Piker goes to jail for being a terrorist supporter, we should make it a national holiday. It will happen. You can't stop yourself from glue terrorist D at this point. That is the family business. Account created in 2011. Like, this person is not 12 years old, man. Account created in 2011. Yeah, exactly. He admits it himself. This is a 32-year-old man. He's only a year younger than me. And this is how warped his brain is. I am so hope you go to jail. Brother, you can't even spell correctly. You're already in jail. You're in a mental prison that you have created for yourself. Please read some books. Tap out of this online business for a little bit, please. This is unimaginably embarrassing. Don't worry, I'm sure you will like jail. Genuinely do not understand why Asmongold can't get away with weaponizing this audience like this to harass you, because who the fuck's gonna do anything? You think Twitch is gonna be like, wow, Asmongold and his followers love coming in here and love going to Hasan's chat and just consistently calling him this, whatever this is. Oh no, I did this because I wanted to. We know. Also, I don't even give a shit, to be fair. I like having Asmongold's hogs in here. It's awesome. I just don't like terrorist supporters. Okay. Do you like Israel then? Yeah, this is a 32-year-old man. You do give a shit. I message an instant pool. No, I give a shit in the sense that I don't give a shit about like the negative consequences of this. I treat this as a positive interaction. I like having people like you in here. Your immediate stupidity actually reveals how dumb your position is. Like the way you talk, the errors that you make, what you think is like coming across as like a normal statement that is entirely schizophrenic. Like that in and of itself is doing marketing for me, whether you realize it or not. You don't realize a lot of things, but you certainly don't realize this either. I don't have an issue with a person like yourself being my ideological enemy. You understand? As a matter of fact, this proves the point that I make all the time, which is that the people that consider me to be an evil person that deserves prison are usually some of the dumbest and most racist hogs you have ever encountered, who wouldn't be able to get away with saying stuff like this in public and only can say stuff like this under the guise of anonymity online. Does that make sense? Not a lot makes sense for you. I like watching Asman. I'm going to be real. It turned me onto your channel. While I disagree with some of what you say, I do appreciate the different perspective. Not all Asman viewers are mouth breathers like this dude. I'm sure. There's also that aspect of it too, which certainly markets my position to a broader audience. Even if they come in here with an uncharitable perspective, it's still ultimately good. You're looking for the word keyboard warrior? I mean, yeah, we know as a keyboard warrior. Do you understand me to write in my native language? Can you even understand it? I'm in a demographic that could so easily have ended up in Asman's community instead. And let me tell you, none of those people are talking to anyone in real life. I mean, I know that they're not. Because if they were talking to someone in real life, like a normal person in real life, and they said words like that, if they strung along a bunch of words such as this one, they would get checked. So what I mean by this is like, it reminds me of the Will Menaker take about conservative comedy, about how conservatives are incapable, reactionaries are incapable of doing comedy because comedy requires you to have a funny perspective on things that would normally be frustrating. But these guys get so angry midway through the process that they just like start saying a bunch of insane things. This is what's happening here. Like, this person does not even know what his real gripe is. In his mind, he thinks like, I represent Islam, and that's dangerous and scary. That's it. There's no real nuance there. You know what I mean? Yeah, and here, this is his. These are his takes in the Asmongold chat. Moderate Islamists are the grass that hides the snake, kind of the Burgess thing. Moderate Islamists are the grass that hides the snake. You will get banned if you play it insta-ban. Can we not like Muslims? Can we not like Muslims? Can we just nuke Muslim countries and be done with them? Muslims, man, they can't stop killing. Gaming journalists are idiots. That's lie. That's lie. Hasan is not banned. F Hasan, man. Like, this is in Asmongold's chat. And not banned in his chat for saying we should just nuke all Muslims. As opposed to someone in this community, if they were to say we should nuke all Jews, they would be lasered instantly. Okay? They'd be lasered from this community instantly, and most likely even banned from the platform. They'd probably get a platform-wide ban. Do you see what I mean? They did get banned. Never mind. Wait. They got banned. They got banned. Not here, but they got banned. W base S. I love this woman. W. Most likely, I assume, for spam. Yeah. Banned in Asmongold's chat. Still hates me more. Not banned in mine, though. I did got banned. Why you lying? Dude, I love that. You got banned, and you're still riding. Yeah, 100% banned for spam, most likely. Dude, why you lying? I did got banned. Yeah, I got banned for getting wild for against Islam. Again, banned in the chat, still defending Asmongold. No, I got banned for saying Islam equals terrorist. Okay, well, I'm happy that Asmongold's community is moderated appropriately. I will be keeping this guy, for the record, in the chat. I did got banned. Why you lying? No, you don't represent Islam. You represent terrorists. Yeah, except you already said your opinion on Islam. You said there's no such thing as like moderate Muslims. They're hiding the truth about the dangers of Islam, which you think should be nuked. You think Muslim equals terrorist. That's it. And luckily, no, this person is not 12. Stop assuming that these people are 12. They are mentally stunted adults. He already revealed that he's a 32-year-old man, okay? You need to understand. We got a new pet in here, by the way. And we'll keep it. We'll keep this one. All right, let's continue with this.
And I shouldn't have, but that was Spotify, and Apple News was Apple Podcast was the exact same, and I was a little bit worried, so I brought it up, especially because in the space that I'm in, there is a lot of center-right, centrist, fence-sitting content creators that find themselves in the throes of right-wing radicalization, sometimes organically, other times they do it because they know that there's a market for it. But there are a lot of commentary channels out there that...
They just ate a perma. They just ate a site-wide ban. Oops. For the whole nuke the entire Muslim world take that they had. 2011 account, too.
Find themselves doing center-right commentary all the way to far-right commentary. And it exists in virtually...
This is why I lose all my hogs, man. This is why I lose all my hogs. I want to keep them. But then Twitch will just be like, okay, well, that's an incredibly racist thing that this person said. They deserve a ban, site-wide ban. And then I can't even... Still talking about Asmongold? No, you dumb... I'm not the one who brought him up. That chatter did. Are you guys so stupid? This is, dude, Asmongold chatters will come in here and be like, dude, Asmongold is #1. And then I pulled them up and I talk about their own perspective, like, their worldview or whatever, and be like, once again, talking about Asmongold. It's like, no, you brought it up.
Every single interest that young men have. You like cars? You go to a YouTube car channel, and all of a sudden this guy's like talking about the G-Wagon's history, and then he's like a little bit too enthusiastic. You're like, what's going on? Why are you talking about it like that? Or video games obviously is the one that everybody knows, where virtually every single commentator in that space is constantly talking about, like, there was a black woman on a video game, that's woke, that's DEI, we need to end that. And I think that we're priming young men who are already in the throes of radicalization due to the hopelessness that they...
You are sad that a psychotic racist got permit because you can't play with your pet, man. Please fix your brain. I mean, I think that's the appropriate way to deal with a lot of these racists, you know? It's just like, I want to pet the hog a little bit.
They feel who are already very vulnerable into being really open-minded. Dare I say too open-minded to reactionary opinions.
So just shifting to the election, you and other left-leaning commentators have been vocal in condemning decisions by the Democratic Party in the run-up to the election. You were actually kicked out of the DNC, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. But even after that, you know, in the recent pardon...
Asman has a Hasan emote? Wait, really? What is the emote that he has of me? Dude, once again, the double standard is so ominous, so glaring, so obvious. It's like... It's called Crash Out. That's so funny. And it's me soy facing. Dude, that is hilarious, okay? First of all, any kind of like face distortion that is applied to me is additionally funny when you look like Asmongold. But secondly, if I were to use any Asmongold emotes in my chat, how much do you think his community and every other adjacent right-wing community would lose their minds and be like, dude, you're so rent-free? I need to see this emote. What does it look like? Is it this? I guess we have the cockroach emoji. By the way, you mog him with that emote. You have more bottom teeth than him. They unironically used to ban streamers for doing shit like this. If you did this, they'd scream until you got banned. Oh, for sure. If I had like a ugly ass emote, not even like, I wouldn't need to like uglify it to be fair. But if I had like a crash out emote talking about Asmongold, I would probably get banned. Let's be real. This is the emote. Oh, that's funny. Not gonna lie, the pictures his editors using as thumbnails of you are kind of a glow up. I know. Is he gonna get banned for harassing other streamers? No, of course not. Of course not. I also don't give a shit if we're being real. I don't care. Stop being a bitch, chatters. I do care when it's like harassing other people. I do care when the community is used to go after like random people, journalists, things of that nature. Like Alyssa Mercante comes to mind. You know what I mean? But I can deal with it. I can handle it. I don't give a shit. You're more mainstream. I had no idea about this man until I heard about him from you. Yeah, of course. But we're not mainstream right now. We're online. We're online, and the spaces that we occupy online are incredibly right wing. And also, being a mainstream figure doesn't necessarily translate to having the same amount of impact. You can have people that are not mainstream, like Asmongold, have a tremendous amount of impact in the spaces that they occupy, whether it be Twitch or even YouTube, right?
Of Hunter Biden, you even called like liberals stupid in the recent video that you put out about that. So do you think repeated criticisms by prominent left-wing figures cost the party this election, and do you think they deserved it?
I don't think that my criticisms of the party were costly to the election. I often think if I had that capacity, because this is something that people say all the time, where like, you're too critical of the Democrats. I'm like, well, first of all, if they listened to me, I think that they probably would have performed better. You know, that's one thing that I've seen at least. But also, if I had this kind of motion, Bernie Sanders would be president. This would be the end of his second term, you know? I don't. But also, if I had this kind of motion and this kind of influence, then the Democratic Party would be stupid not to come and like beg for an audience with someone like myself. I was this like supposed kingmaker. So no, I don't think independent media, especially on the progressive side, that was critical of the campaign, that cost the election. I think you can't really outflank the campaign because at the end of the day,
That's so disingenuous, bro. Lamont, was so hard to get a straight answer out of you on this topic. Wait, what is disingenuous about what I said? I'm not saying that I have no influence whatsoever. Listen to my words. I'm saying that, yes, I do have some influence, but the idea that like I would have to lie to my audience in an effort to present a false narrative to make the, what? You had the same motion 8 years ago? What? I don't understand what you are hyper focusing on here. Are you saying that like, of course I wasn't a known entity 8 years ago as I am now? Is that what you mean? I don't. I know. Your words said if you had this motion, then Bernie would be ending. Wait, what? His second term? No. If I had the influence that question, the underlying premise in that question is you have tremendous influence. You have tremendous influence to swing elections. I'm addressing that premise and saying it's faulty because if I had that level of influence in this election, or if I had that level of influence that they suggest in the faulty premise in the 2016 election or the 2020 election, this would be Bernie Sanders' second term. I'm not saying I have that level of influence. I do recognize that I have some level of influence, but not to the same degree as I can like move mountains and change elections. Wouldn't you say the pro-Palestine movement as a whole had the motion, but not you individually? Wait, what? Would you say the pro-Palestine movement as a whole had the motion? No, I don't even think the pro-Palestine movement would be capable of individually changing the outcome of this election. I think that if the Kamala Harris campaign had decoupled from the Biden administration, if the Kamala Harris campaign specifically severed ties with the Biden administration on the issue of Gaza, this would create an impact that was positive for the campaign. It would play a positive role in the way that the campaign was received. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that there's like a singular antidote to fix the outcome of this election that took place. Of course, there's no singular antidote. There are a million different reasons why people either chose to not vote or vote for Trump or vote for Kamala Harris or even third parties. You have to combine all of those different reasons and try to present the best possible alternative. Try to present the best possible campaign that way. Some people don't give a shit about Israel-Palestine, right? You understand? So there is no singular focus. There is no singular reason. There is no silver bullet here that could have helped. Fair put me down. No, I'm gonna shake you a little bit before because you're being silly. Don't yap the cops. Why Hasan Piker's U.S. Customs story kicked off backlash. Yeah, I saw this morning. What shoes are those, bro? The Dr. Martens.
They have $1.5 billion in their war coffers, and they're using that to be like, this is what we represent. So even if I were to, for example, let's say, try to get people to vote for Kamala Harris by lying and telling them she actually is super woke on Israel. She said to me secretly she's going to dismantle the Zionist entity piece by piece. Please go out and vote for her. She hates genocide. And then she goes on television and she's like, you know, Israel is super cool and I love Israel and we have to give more weapons to Israel. Israel has a right to defend itself. People are going to hear that and they're not going to listen to me. So there's no way that you can outflank the campaign in that regard. So I think it all still goes back to what they choose to communicate, how they communicate it, and ultimately it goes back to policies. Are they addressing the material realities, the fears and anxieties that people experience? And I don't think the Democrats do a good job with that at all. And I've been very critical of that because I don't want Donald Trump to win. I understand that American foreign policy to a certain degree is uniparty. And outside of that uniparty approach, it only ratchets further and further to the right. And that only happens when you have a right-wing president. So I don't want that to happen even on Gaza policy, which is, you know, seemingly uniparty regardless. And in order, like when I make these criticisms of the Democratic Party, it's not to harm them. It's because I want them to actually be a competent anti-fascist counterbalance to the Republican Party. I want them to fight.
So recently, as I just referenced, you did have a video on President Joe Biden's pardoning of Hunter Biden. And I actually thought you had a very interesting take on this in your video about pardons and crime bills. So how do you feel about the fact that the son of the man who led one of the biggest crime bills, which imprisoned the lives of many minorities and Black Americans, etc., just pardoned his son for those very same crimes?
Yeah, it's pure hypocrisy. It's ridiculous. And I don't mean hypocrisy in the sense that like he kept lying over and over again that he wasn't going to pardon Hunter Biden. I understand when he says it was an instance of lawfare, which is ironic because that's what Trump talks about all the time as well, and said Biden's DOJ was prosecuting Trump unfairly. I mean hypocrisy in its purest form. Joe Biden does not care about poor people, Black people, brown people when they are now, their lives are irreparably ruined because of mistakes that they've made. With the crime control bill that he was the architect of. But of course, when it's his own son, he's like, oh my God, we have to free him. One thing that I also got frustrated with was, at least do clemency for thousands of other people. Like, what the f are you doing? You're like, no, I'm just gonna fix this situation for my son. And worse, he also came out recently, and I can't believe he said this, they're actually entertaining a blanket pardon for Liz Cheney and Adam Schiff. Now, I get why he's trying to do that, because he thinks that like these important figures are probably going to be unfairly persecuted by the Trump administration. But like, really, Liz Cheney? Like, let her go to prison, please. Like, what are we doing? Anyway, that's my take.
That was the first part. This is the other one. What's next for Republicans after Trump and the widening gender gap in politics?
But Donald Trump is white man's Obama.
So just raise your hand and I'll pick on you. The member at the front, right there.
Thank you. Hasan, first of all, congratulations on Thanksgiving this year. It was much better than last year.
He said, congratulations on Thanksgiving this year. Much better than last year.
Now, Hasan, probably very evident that I agree with you 99.9%. So my question is going to be within the left, right? Mm-hmm. There seems to be an emerging debate, of which your uncle is on the other side of the aisle, and I'm on your side, by the way, that there is a fundamental challenge that comes with the left coalition. Bhaskar Sankar wrote an article in Vox about left being in purgatory. It appears to me so, and there's an honest criticism to you and all the other leftist streamers, Kyle Kulinski and everybody else. You guys talk about working class politics, but you guys don't look, walk, or sit and, be with the working class. That's an important hurdle, I feel, in not only making sure that you're advocating for those people, but also giving them the trust that you are their man and you will be fighting for them. One of the reasons that Joe Biden won the Midwest was because he could present that Scranton Joe figure. How do you perceive that challenge, and how to sort of also deal with this sudden turn among the leftists that we're going to put the trans people and the gay people under the bus? Balancing act, Hasan. How are you going to do that?
Great question. So I think that the way that the Democratic Party has done this is awful for the most part. I think we all agree on that, or at least, it was a demonstrable failure. The way they've presented this in the past is, we're going to defend trans people, so you might as well vote for us, and make a compelling harm reduction argument, which has been a demonstrable failure time and time again. That
Hasan does so regularly, but people choose not to see it or genuinely don't because they only consume sound bites and clips. No, I think aesthetically, I don't rock the. Every now and then I wear Carhartt pants, but it's obvious that I don't masquerade as working class because I feel like it would be disingenuous to do so. That's not who I am. I am who I am. I like what I like. I see no reason to lie about those things. And I feel like when Ted Cruz wears the snakeskin boots and a big belt buckle and says, yeah, I'm a real working class man, he's lying. I would rather not lie and be honest and tell you exactly what's up. That's it.
We are better than the Republicans and will protect you, but we're not going to make any, we're not even going to say we're going to protect you. And apparently Now they're not even interested in protecting trans people at all. They want to be the transphobic party on top of everything else. I think this is a failure. I think the real way to combat this is not.
But as far as like showing up for stuff, I do actually go to the front lines. I will speak at protests. I will go out to marches. I will go to organized events. I will fundraise for organized events and activists. So I do all of that. And I also film all of that. And I try to offer a voice to all of that as well. So that is the reality. You hate anything that's not West or East Coast coded. I mean, I also have a tremendous amount of distaste or disgust even for Los Angeles, especially as it pertains to lack of affordable housing and the impact that has had on the exploding homeless population. I have so much anger and resentment towards California for not having any adequate public transit. So obviously that's, you know, you probably don't hear it as much because when someone from California shits on California, that is seen as more valid. But for someone from California to shit on Idaho, all of a sudden it's a very different, more contentious situation for you. Do you see what I mean?
Not to succumb to wedge issues that the Republicans are routinely using as a distraction. Because the reality of the matter is they don't want to have the tough conversations. They don't want to have an argument against someone who says, we need to build social housing. We need to build public housing. We need to claw back the housing market from these speculators. The people that treat it like as a simple asset and not shelter that you need for survival. When the Democratic Party makes a convincing argument on that front, now
part of the issue of insisting that leftists engage in working class aesthetics is that people can almost always see it as disingenuous. People aren't stupid, and wearing a cowboy hat or flannel is not going to actually convince people to join the cause. And this has been proven time and time again. It also always begs the question, what do working class aesthetics even entail? Yeah, there's hella dripped up teachers out there, for example, who have an interest in fashion. I see it on TikTok all the time. There's like teachers in fucking Oklahoma, Texas, who also love fashion. And then when they're not at school, they get to show that. You know what I mean? You have baristas. Baristas are some working class. Like, it doesn't, all of this stuff is just pure aesthetics. I don't try to focus on that stuff, or at least present myself in a way that I'm not, in an effort to garner the attention, or in an effort to showcase. I mean, aesthetics and optics are a part of this, for the record. To be fair, they are a part of this, okay? It's marketing, and I am a brand at the end of the day, and therefore, if I were to represent myself in that like working class way, I think it would be more helpful for sure. But I still choose not to, because I think it's just not who I am. I don't want to do that. I don't care.
The Republicans have to present themselves against that in an effort to defend their corporate oligarchs, their corporate benefactors. And because of the unfortunate reality that the Democratic Party is also captive to the same corporate interests, they refuse to make that argument. And in that process, when they don't have anything, when they don't have any red meat for the Republicans to grab onto and attack and try to position themselves as being against, especially popular policies such as Medicare for all, then the Republicans dominate the field. And culture war issues and wedge issues are their bread and butter. So I think it's a twofold problem. Obviously, you should be uncompromising in defending all marginalized communities. But having said that, the best possible way to do that is by pushing for universal programs that affect the lives of every single American unconditionally. This way, you broaden your coalition, and also simultaneously put forth policies that will put the Republican Party at odds with its base. And you need to be able to do that in an earnest way as well. So there's a long way to go for the Democrats, who unfortunately have destroyed any sort of goodwill that they could have had. They come across as technocratic elitists that are ideologically minded and invested in third-way neoliberalism unconditionally. And it's going to, you're going to need great communicators who are real fighters, who are really invested in improving the material conditions of all American workers.
Next hand. The person in the very back with the plaid shirt. Yes, you.
So in your speech, you raise sensible and legitimate concerns about Israel and its practices and how it has conducted the war, etc. I think you're somewhat vaguer on the solution. You implied, quote unquote, the dismantlement of the Zionist project. Could you get in a bit more of the specifics of what that would look like, who, be governing the land, what happens to the millions of Israeli Jews and Israeli Arabs? That.
Of course, great question. So I am a firm and committed believer in a singular, solitary, secular state. This is somewhat controversial for a lot of people because I think for so many years at this point, for the past couple of decades, it's always been the two-state project.
Bro, this is a crazy amount of salad.
And that is like the most likely, most realistic outcome. But I agree with Avi Shleim, Israeli Iraqi historian Avi Shleim, who also went on his own intellectual journey of moving away from the two-state solution to a singular state because of what the two-state solution represents. I call it the so-called peace process, peace process, for a reason, because that was very cynically used by the Israeli government to really explode the settler expansion in the West Bank to create Bantustans, to create these like tiny micro-Palestinian villages that they cut across deliberately. And that's what the two-state project looks like. And I think at this point, it's become a single state already, that Israel is the sovereign state of this entire territory, and it is an apartheid state. So I hope that with enough pressure, and it is already happening, things are changing in a way that I never thought I would see in my lifetime, where people will continue to engage with boycott, divestments, and sanctions, and make it impossible for Israel to maintain an apartheid state, and it will inevitably dissolve in the same way that the South African process happened.
The member at the very front in the black coat.
Hello. First, thank you so much for being here. It's great to hear you speak. I'm actually from UCLA, and I think you donated some pizzas to our encampment in the spring, so we really appreciate that. My question is on a topic Sarah brought up earlier, which is the reality of this really widening gender political gap among young people. Especially like in online spaces, the radicalizing of young boys is a really intense threat. So I was wondering if you had any thoughts on how we can culturally course correct and address that issue in the future.
Yeah, it is a real problem. It is becoming worse and worse, I think. And it is, I mean, it's the same as enmity towards any other marginalized group, that like gender wars has become like the very common way that people find themselves in the throes of reactionary ideals. And I don't necessarily think it's just like the manosphere or the content that is making people this way. I think ultimately I'm a firm believer that if you solve a lot of the material problems, that you will be able to make it much easier to tackle some of this nascent reactionary sentiment. A lot of young men are vulnerable. They're getting worse and worse educational outcomes, and as a consequence of that, they're getting worse job outcomes. They're no longer seeing upward social mobility as a reality, and they have the exact same social and economic pressures that everybody else faces as well, in terms of no job prospects, never really owning a home, never really retiring. Like, that's not even a reality for many people at this point. And I think that creates a lot of anger, and especially if you're a young boy and you've grown up in a patriarchal society, you also have a built-in sense of entitlement that comes along with it. You see this a lot more in young white men in general, and a combination of all of those factors, I think, play a a very significant role in the way that young men view the world and the anger that they feel. So I know I feel like I'm repeating myself quite a bit on this issue, but it comes from trying to fix some of these underlying societal problems that will help every single person. And then outside of that, you probably have to take a look at education, primary schooling and whatnot, and the curriculums and the way that we educate people, and maybe make some fixes if you want to tackle this issue. But I don't see any politician coming out and directly addressing that at all, and so I feel like the problem's only going to worsen. Damn, everybody has a question now.
Okay, as a member that's putting their head up like that, yeah, you.
Hi, thank you very much. I thought it was interesting what you brought about with the growth of right-wing Europe movements in the West. I think the thing which distinguishes what's going on in the States from Europe is it's really centered around one person. The Republican Party is in many ways a Trump party, which begs the question, what happens to the Republican Party after Trump? The Republican Party is a strange coalition of very many different people, only really brought together by their love of this one person. So does the party split when he goes? Does it? Because a lot of these people really do not like each other. So I would be very interested to hear your view on what happens after. Thank you.
Someone said, by the way, please don't tell me you think education needs to be catered to boys like it already has been since education was invented. No. That's only one aspect of the problem. Enmity towards women is the exact same shit as blaming Jews for all of society's issues, or blaming black people for all of society's issues. You do that when you don't have a class-based political understanding of the world. You do that because you don't understand that it is actually capitalism that's f***ing you over. It's not a woman that is responsible for your lack of safety and security in your future. Especially if we're talking about young men. What are young men worried about? Well, they're worried about the same shit that young women are worried about. But these guys, these right-wing manosphere podcasts, will take those concerns and anxieties and will reshift these young men's priorities and their attention back to women in general, within the confines of interpersonal communication with women, within the confines of feeling a sense of anger and resentment after, being denied a date or something. That's it. It's the same type of scapegoating that exists for trans people.
It's a really interesting question, especially because the Republican Party tried to recreate their own Trump with that was more controllable by the establishment, with a hyper focus on culture war, but also with, I guess, more of an intellectual veneer, but one that hyper focused on policy specifically. His name was Ron DeSantis, and that was an obvious failure. The more people heard about Ron DeSantis, the more they found out he was a goober and horrible to be around. Just really bad vibes in general. So I think that Donald Trump is, in a very similar way, Donald Trump is like, I say this jokingly, but Donald Trump is white man's Obama, where Barack Obama was incredibly charismatic. And with all of that talent, with his rhetorical skills, he was able to commit Americans to a campaign of hope and change, despite the fact that his governance was still very much the same third-way neoliberalism, having Republicans in his cabinet, things that Kamala Harris also pushed for. And Democrats have tried to recreate that over and over again, and they have not succeeded. And I think the Republicans will fail in a similar fashion as well. So there is a real holistic problem within the Republican Party because they've leaned so much into the most insane parts of their base. And when I say insane, I don't just mean like right-wing reaction. I mean literally insane, like QAnon. things like that. Like people who just like legitimately think vaccines make you gay and autistic. Like that is not sustainable. And so I don't know what will happen after Donald Trump leaves power, because I don't know if J.D. Vance will be another Ron DeSantis, or if he will actually be able to commit to, I don't know, whatever happens, whatever fascist future we are foreseeing for America. But I do think that there is a real crisis in the Republican Party as well. We saw that in the midterms, except instead of taking advantage of that crisis, the Democrats seemingly still found a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah, the member putting their card up right there with the glasses. Yeah, you, yes.
Is the card a flex?
No, it's
It's
just,
like, yo.
it's just easier to distinguish.
Hi, Hasan. I was wondering if you saw the kind of viral tweet this week about the Cambridge PhD with the olfactory ethics of prose and all the kind of the anti.
Oh, she was in Cambridge?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay.
And it made me kind of think about fascist anti-intellectualism, and then kind of wider about the sort of place of universities in a wider leftist movement and going to university. I think that's kind of relevant for all of us. And I was just wondering if you had thoughts on that generally.
Yeah, that was so interesting, because I think like the right-wing mind is so baby-brained in many ways, because they think like, you know, what you're supposed to do at like an English lit PhD is talk about how sick the Odyssey is. Like that's what they think, and I saw a lot of people criticizing this person, being like, oh, why is this hyper niche, like hyper specific thing that you focused on for your dissertation? It's like, that's what you're supposed to do, like, and I mean, in that intellectual examination, you end up uncovering certain truths that you never would have thought, and I see a broader problem with the way that the right looks at all matter of scientific inquiry. And it's very frustrating, and it's also very damaging when you have Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy talking about the Department of Government Efficiency, named after Dogecoin. I mean, it's idiocracy. Like, we literally are living in idiocracy world now. But one thing that they are constantly, like they've been constantly pointing to is, why are we spending, you know, $2 million on like raccoon piss? And it's like, yeah, you probably don't understand why the government is doing that, but like my immediate reaction to that isn't like, oh, these dumb woke scientists are doing that. Like, there's probably a reason for it. And then lo and behold, you find out like, no, there is actually a reason for it. It's like trying to figure out new methods of warding off predators while using pheromones that are not necessarily dangerous to the environment, right? So this is really scary when you have these people that are in control of the funding mechanisms of the government, and their stupidity is going to, I think, shut off a lot of scientific research, and I'm very frustrated by that.
This is before Doge came into action, and of course, everything I predicted happened.
But I don't know where we go from here, really. I just hope that maybe maybe you'll jiggle some keys in front of them and their attention will focus on something else, hopefully. Because, yeah, God forbid, you let these guys run the show. I mean, it's gonna be awful. But it also, I mean, I guess is similar to Nazi Germany as well, where they were like very desperately trying to find trying to dampen the way artistic expression worked, and they were like really hyper focused. They thought like modern art was degenerate, and they wanted to recreate more orthodox versions of art, and obviously that was a failure. So I think when there's a will, there's a way, and hopefully people will overcome these problems.
Idiocracy is a term I should use more. Yes, remember here. This is the last question, I believe.
These questions, by the way, I don't know what he's gonna ask. Okay? These questions, I will admit, have been a lot more policy focused than the Cambridge ones were. I don't know what was going on.
What were the Cambridge ones?
The Cambridge ones were literally like, I saw a YouTube video of you 5 years ago where you were making a joke that I'm taking seriously. Why did you say that? And I was like, I mean, it's a joke.
I did have some quotes I couldn't get to.
Oh, damn, you were ready.
I was ready, but I was like, I'll be nicer.
Someone honestly asked me, like, why do you think Crimea belongs to Turkey?
Wait, you got asked that at Cambridge.
Yes.
We are the better place.
That was, I mean, yeah, so far it's been great. I don't know what he's gonna do. Someone didn't even have a question. My last question at Cambridge was, why do you call yourself a socialist when you have a house?
Wait, that should be like a t-shirt quote.
I mean, yeah. I don't want to push back on any particular kind of one thing you've said, but as you've just alluded to, I think there are quite a few things that people kind of consistently bring up against you, which I think you say in jest, and kind of I see where it comes from. But do you think at times it's proved kind of damaging and kind of unconstructive with some of the things you've said in the past? Particularly people bring up kind of very popularly kind of what you might have said about 9/11 or October 2nd.
Okay, that was the quote that I had.
Oh, you were gonna ask me about America deserved 9/11? I mean, so, no, you're right. I agree. I think it comes with the format for the most part.
This is what they asked me in Chicago too, if you remember. And what's interesting about it is like, I think in a way it's a little bit victim blaming, but they don't understand that because they don't know they don't understand how the sausage is made. Like you guys are a little bit more locked in on how the sausage is made, so you see it every day. Where the reasons as to why, like it's virtually impossible for me to maintain this civil aesthetic posture for 8 to 10 hours every single day when talking about politics, right? And there are definitely opportunists who take advantage of that anger. There are opportunists who take advantage of that anger to basically do smears in the same way that they would for prominent politicians. There is, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say something that might piss people off, but I'm honestly shocked every day that I'm not canceled more frequently, given that I talk about politics every single day from a position that is not broadly represented in American media at all. It's actually wild because one thing that content creators always come to me and are in shock about is the fact that I talk for 8 hours in general, right? Content creators, if you ask them, will be like, there is no way I can do that. I will literally get myself canceled because I will say something that will be misconstrued. And that's not just about politics, that's just in general, right? Every single content creator, if you were to ask them, would they be able to maintain like an 8-hour broadcast, would tell you, ain't no way, I will absolutely get canceled. It's not because they're illiterate, chatter. Some of them are, okay? But you're wrong. You would get canceled too. If you think that you'd be able to yap about any issue without a chat even for 8 consecutive hours, you 100% are wrong. Now, add on to this equation. Yeah, it's human. It's in our capacity to make errors, endless amounts of errors in the process of free flow communication over 8 hours every day. Then add on to that the fact that I'm talking about politics. Then add on to that the fact that I'm talking about politics from a perspective or a framework that is not broadly represented by, broadly recognizable to the overwhelming majority of Americans, or even, dare I say, considered to be hostile types of politics, because it's like inherently antagonistic to the pre-existing hierarchies that people take for granted under capitalism. Then on top of that, add on a bunch of ideological enemies from all different swaths of society who are intensely focused on trying to vilify me every step of the fucking way, basically gang stalking me. I think I do pretty well under this magnifying glass, all things considered, you know? And that's it. Part of the reason why it doesn't really work is that, and here's what this chatter said, and that's really funny. Not this chatter. This chatter Yeet cancels you every day. Like, that's what I mean. There's like, I have stalkers and accounts dedicated to stalking me, content creators dedicated to stalking me, and communities that are dedicated to stalking me. You will regret this word. You will regret saying this. No, the point that I'm making is not inviting further scrutiny. I'm saying that I've already maxed out on scrutiny, and I choose my words very carefully. But in that regard, yes, there will be moments where I get canceled. There will be moments where I come across as maybe a little too passionate, and no one really defends you. That's the other side of it. Part of the reason why most people don't even want to defend me is, one, because I have my own community. I don't expect anyone to defend me either, because I understand that like no one has the capacity to deal with like the level of insane stalker behavior that I have to engage with. I mean, it's obsessive. It's a obsessive business, you know. Is smart to stream at times that Asmin is not on, so your political stream doesn't seem so small in viewership. It's all good, baby. I think it's a more damning indication of American politics and American political discourse on this platform than you think. I'm good though. Thanks though. Maybe when you start your own journey as a political commentator, you can choose to stream outside of the hours that me and Asmin stream at. You're right. People love Asmin and Hasan. The overlap is insane. So anyway, that's what I mean. Everyone understands it. Everyone understands like how insane the format is. So of course, in this format, like there's gonna be kinks. There's gonna be issues. But I try to do my very best regardless. There was a TikTok comment on one of your videos saying how they didn't get why you would yell all the time until they actually tune into your broadcast frequently. And after 3 years, they are surprised how calm you are and how you don't yell even more often. Yeah. Legion Miller acknowledged in a recent video about your detainment that you have a bunch of privileges and you still get so much hate. Why do people give Asmongold any credit? Because they are even stupider than the way Asmongold presents himself. I wouldn't necessarily say Asmongold is stupid. I don't think he's just very knowledgeable on politics. But there are people who are incredibly dumb, like much dumber than even the way Asmongold presents himself. So much so that they are like, oh yeah, I agree with this guy. This guy's a truth teller. That in and of itself is damning. It's damning for political discourse. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. They don't understand what a horrible representation this is for political discourse in the United States of America in general, especially online, especially in independent media, that Asmongold and the way he presents himself, which is an incredibly dumb person, even though he's not so dumb. Asmin isn't stupid. You are without a doubt the most charitable person on this platform. No, he is not as stupid as he presents himself. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't matter. You can see this as a defense of Asmongold or not. I don't give a shit because I only care about his output. And his output is incredibly dumb and incredibly racist. But I don't think he truly cares about these issues that he speaks on. He's just simply performing to a crowd. It's his viewership is his views are overall aligned with a lot of the things that he talks about for sure. And perhaps he's gotten more radicalized over the course of the past couple of years. But having said that, having said all of that, I think he still is nowhere near as dumb as he presents himself. So Tim Pool, I think, is dumber than even Asmongold. Tim Pool doesn't just present himself as a dumb person. I think he legitimately is a dumb person. Like, he's a bad person and he's dumb. Asmongold, I think, is bad and grifting, but not as dumb as Tim Pool is. That's what I believe. Now, obviously, none of this really matters. I was talking about, like, the way I carry myself and how damaging that might be to, like, the broader leftist movement. Now, the reason I take that in stride to the best of my ability, but I still try to explain my position here, is because most people don't understand what it's like to be a Twitch streamer. And I'm not doing a woe is me type situation. I'm, like, very privileged. I recognize that, right? But having said that, the format itself lends itself to being clipped out of context, and the broader format of the internet overall is incredibly reactionary, incredibly angry towards any sort of, like, progressive politics. So as someone who defends all of these things that these guys want to undermine with regular frequency, I've become this, like, singular amalgamation of like all things socialism, communism, progressive, pro-trans, pro-women, all of this stuff. And it's a lot easier for many people to just like disparage me as a catch-all, to position themselves as like anti all of the things I represent, than to actually individually turn around and defend their idiotic positions on every single one of these issues piece by piece. It's a way for a lot of right-wingers to basically maintain like some semblance of like a political attitude while presenting themselves, while signaling themselves to the rest of the right as like one of them. That's it. And of course, most people don't understand that because they don't understand the environment. They don't understand the media environment, and they don't understand the way that like this kind of content exists. So they only see the impact of it. They only see the manufactured outrage of it, for example. And that's it. But I believe that anyone in my position would probably be in a similar set of circumstances, would probably have to deal with a similar set of circumstances. If it wasn't me, and if it was, I don't know, someone else who was like an out and about avowed leftist, socialist, who had reached the level of success that I've reached, they would probably get attacked in a similar capacity as well. Look no further than an incredibly popular socialist politician, Bernie Sanders, and the ways in which he receives an endless sea of criticism. Those criticisms are almost identical to the criticism that I receive. They write articles about him going on private jets and going on first-class flights every now and then. They wrote endless amounts of articles about how he has 3 homes. He owns 3 homes. Much of that was just a lie, right? But it didn't matter, or much of that was an exaggeration. I thought Bernie is generally adored. Yes, but the same can be said for me. Do you not understand? But you clip people out of context too. It's because you got clipped uncharitably that I found you. Hot takes happen, but you changed my life to be mutual aid focused, to help me be ready to help people after people's roofs got blown off yesterday by the NATO. Anyway, with Bernie, which I'm not comparing myself to. I mean, he's a politician and a leader in this movement. I'm just some random Twitch streamer, but the overall like focused resentment is for the same exact purpose. It's to disparage and undermine the politics of the man, rather than actually tackling the policies of the man. And the same thing goes for myself. Do you see what I mean? So, like I said, it's just people don't understand why there's so much heated discourse in this, and what are the motivating reasons for said heated discourse. And they only see the end of the heated discourse. They see the impact of said heated discourse. And then they go, oh, why did you say this thing that pissed a lot of people off? Don't you feel like it's unproductive to piss a lot of people off? And to which it's going to be really hard for me to explain like the dynamic of online content creation and whatnot. But here it is. Let's watch.
Part, if we're going to be super serious about it, like I'm talking for 8 to 10 hours. Sometimes, you know, tensions get high, and I get emotional. I'm very passionate. And I say things that can be very easily misconstrued, right? Even the 9/11 quote is something that is virtually not even a point of contention in academic literature if you discuss it as a point of blowback. Like if you meddle in the affairs of the world, inevitably the very same people that you propped up as brave mujahideen that were anti-Soviet warriors on the road to peace. That was the way that Osama bin Laden was featured in, I believe, 1993 on a famous Independent article. Yeah, those guys are going to inevitably be like, I'm going to use the training and the guns you gave me against you. And that was what I was talking about in that situation, but did not communicate it in the best ways possible. And especially with the clickbait culture that we now have, whenever I talk about complex, nuanced, and dense geopolitical issues.
Okay, never mind. I kind of cooked. I take it back. I was too harsh on myself. That boy was cooking. Low key, but high key. I mean, I basically explained everything I was telling you guys just now.
You can always make it, you can always cut it in a way where you can make it seem like I'm saying the exact opposite thing that I'm actually saying. But I think ultimately, the way I feel about it is like I would rather still maintain somewhat of a humorous nature, even if it's like gallows humor. Not saying that about the 9/11 thing, but just in general, you know, instances where I've like been clipped out of context or been taken seriously when I'm very obviously joking. I don't believe Crimea belongs to Turkey. Like in moments like that, I would rather continue doing my coverage in the way that I'm doing it and not succumb to the naysayers and people who wish to try to stop me and smear me and cynically clip me out of context in an effort to try and censor me. I'd much rather continue doing it the way that I'm doing it, because I feel like it would be very boring. There are a million content creators out there who engage in the dense subject matter with the academic tone that it deserves, right? I'm trying to make things more entertaining. I'm trying to make things more appealing, and I'm trying to educate people while also, you know, sometimes making them laugh or entertaining them. So that's my that's my primary focus. And if things get misconstrued along the way, then it is what it is, you know? There's not really much I can do about it.
So that was the last question. Thank you so much for coming. Everyone just please remain seated while my guest and I leave. But that's Hasan Piker. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
That was great. I think I did a pretty decent job with my speech too, but unfortunately we don't have that yet, but that's coming out soon, so fear not. What's interesting about this is I think a lot of people forget that, yes, while I make this look natural, there's nothing natural about this process, okay? Like, I'm still very much a person that is speaking to an entire stadium full of people every single day. Even on a lower view count day, such as this one. And I'm talking about heated political subjects, right? Things that people get very passionate about, things that people have a tremendous amount of conviction over when they're speaking about this stuff. And I think it's always interesting whenever people will come in and criticize me over how I've communicated over something, over an issue, when that's my job. Like when people will be like, excuse me, when you say like Israel has done 1 million October 7s, like that makes it seem as though there's like a moral equivalence between what Israel's doing and what Hamas is doing when there isn't. And it's like, yeah, I know that that's what it seems like, but I'm communicating that position to people that actually literally think Israel is in the right. This is a new position for them. Do you understand? Hasan Reactions is one of the best ones in the React channel.